All right, good afternoon and welcome everyone. I guess good afternoon here in Nashville, Tennessee, where we're coming from today, or at least that I'm coming from. And First webinar here, our MSP Success webinars of the year, and I'm really excited to have on today's webinar a good friend. Been in the community for years and years, done a ton of things with us here at Technology Marketing Toolkit, and then now under the MSP Success brand that we have as well, the MSP Success Magazine brand. Eric Townsend, and I'm going to bring Eric on in just a moment here. I want to go through just a few different housekeeping items. For those of you that don't know me, I know a lot of you do, but for those that don't, I'm Jeff Johnson with Technology Marketing Toolkit and Big Red Media as your host today of the webinar. We do have a great call lined up, and Eric's got great content. And we will be able to have time during this to be able to have any questions that are answered or to be able to ask questions and make this interactive. I'll jump in from time to time. So if you do have questions on this, here's the one thing that I would ask is that make sure that you use the Q&A. You should see both a Q&A and a chat. A lot easier to be able to make sure that we cover everything if you do that in the Q&A box. And we've got myself and a few others that are watching over that. So if you have questions that are coming through, definitely fire away with those there. If you have any comments or anything else, or if Eric asks you something for feedback here, then just go ahead and post that, or feel free to post that in the chat of any comments, and maybe just to check to make sure it's working. If you post it in the chat of saying where you're at here for this first 2021, where are you coming in from, go ahead and post that in the chat, and we'll be watching. Dennis, it is going to be recorded. We will post it up on the MSP Success Magazine website, and you are going to get a link there. So I've got Dennis coming from Brighton, Michigan. We got Pennsylvania, California. Eric's there in Phoenix. So Eric, with that, I'm going to, since you responded and you were listening to me responding where you're at, I'm going to turn it right over to you here on today's webinar. And I know you got a ton of great content here to walk us through for making more sales in 2021.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thank you. And I'm excited because I think today, as we're talking through, we got everyone here. I think it's great because we're going to have a conversation, right? So we're here to kind of talk through some slides, but I'm excited because one, we have Alicia on from our Dell Expert Network. So she's going to give you some resources, give you some perspective. She works with lots of MSP partners across the US. And even better, we got Michael here today, Michael Goldstein. He's an MSP partner, works a lot with us. And we're going to kind of talk through what his feedback is. But I'm just excited for everyone that's here. I think we got a good amount of people that are engaging, which is great. So as we're talking through today, agenda-wise, we're going to go through some really good stuff. First, we're going to kind of talk about just the current business environment, right? So I want to make sure we're all on the same page of what's the business environment look like, where's it at? Then I want to kind of talk us through what are the current marketing, what's current marketing landscape look like? From what we've done from a marketing perspective, customer engagement, customer success. I know there's lots of different words to these out there, but kind of let's start looking at what does that look like as we kind of get to this next normal, right? Where we've been and where we are and where we're going. And then really get kind of the meat of these three kind of sales pipeline strategies to drive demand in 2021. So these are things that you'll actually be able to go do when you leave today. And then, like I said, Michael provides some feedback of where his company's at, and then lots of resource share with you. Obviously, if you haven't heard of Dell Expert Network and how they can actually help you, you're going to get a lot on that today. But just excited. In our conversation today, please make sure if you've got a question that comes up, please let us know. If you've got feedback on something that's talked about, please do that. We really kind of want to make sure this is engaging as possible for you. So please make sure you do that. Myself, Eric Townsend, work actually at Intel Corporation. Pretty excited as far as all things happen on Intel. But today, we're going to really kind of step out of those walls and think about, okay, what actually happens in your environment with customers? Myself, I've worked a lot with partners. I do it kind of every day. I've been on actually 3 partner calls today where we were talking about demand gen, leadership strategies, how they're doing from some of their techs that are out there. So when we're talking today about technology, or specifically about marketing and how we're doing demand gen, at Intel, we spend a lot of money on marketing. So I'll probably give you a couple of hey, probably don't want to do that. That was one of our $1 million mistakes, I call them. but also I work a lot of partners that are literally tactically saying, I have a marketing budget, or I've got people that I'm maybe entrusting part-time or maybe full-time to go do demand gen, or I've got sales teams. I'm going to give you kind of those lessons learned and that ones that are working right now in the time we're in, because they are a little bit different. But really excited just to share kind of some different insight. Feel free to connect me on LinkedIn and we can get some more conversation done there. First thing that we're going to start with is a polling question, because we want to make sure this conversation is interactive. And you're going to see the poll come up here shortly. And what the poll really is going to talk about is, I want to get feedback from you of, think about COVID-19 and how much that has affected your sales. And think about over the last 12 months or so, how much has it affected? And for some people here, you said, you know what, it really has not affected too much at all. It really hasn't done too much. For other people, you may say, you know, actually, it actually has affected me a little more. So the scale we got here is significantly less. That means you grew by about 25%. Minimally less means just 1 to 25% you had growth. And then what I want you to think about is that part around no impact, which was a 0, or is it minimally impact, where it was kind of that 1 to 25, or did you actually lose business? And there's people out there that had some loss because at 125 or 25 or higher. And I want to give a couple minutes for people to bring this up. And the reason why, when we were talking about polls and why we have it, is that everyone here is in a different part of their business, right? And it's always in part because I'll go talk to partners and we're talking about how we're doing demand gen, or how we're doing customer engagement, or, you know, what is our sales strategy to make us really grow? And I always ask, so where have you been? Like what's experience do you have? And they're always different. So as we were going through here, I want to make sure we all understand everyone is different, right? There is not one partner on this call that is in the exact same space, because we all have different solutions offering, right? We all have we've got a really good kind of toolkit of how we can go do marketing, right? That the Robin team provides, but really how are we going to actually deploy that? What resource we have? We're all different. There's not one that has it down. And so, like I said, I'm just trying to make sure we get a view of what that impact was. We'll give about another 10 seconds or so for that to kind of people give kind of final feedback. And then we'll kind of move from there. And like I said, good kind of thing around these conversations we're gonna have is really kind of make it as interactive as possible. So, and what I'll do is I'll just quickly kind of end the poll, and you can actually see the results that we got. So you can kind of see it's interesting. We've got people that did have a little bit of growth, we had a little bit of loss. You can kind of see some people that are in that 8 or 10% that had some growth, and that some people that didn't. So it's great feedback, right? As far as just for you an idea, people are different. And I want to take a little time up front to really talk about kind of the current business environment. As we're jumping into content, I want to make sure we're all on the same page of what does the environment come from where we've been, meaning we have been in a certain set of engagement with customers, and those customers are looking at certain things to change within their environment, right? And so, and some of these here, you're going to see things go, yep, that's some things we're doing. But the business changes that are resulting from COVID-19, right? So I'm not just saying work remotely or how we engage our customers are remote, right? But you can see here, meeting structure changes, how leaders lead, how they use technology, how the company is ran, all these specific topics, approach to talent, culture, decision-making. I'm showing these is because if you're like, okay, when I'm doing demand gen, normally I'm going to go through and I'm going to talk about my offering I have. I'm going to have a couple, really basic, really clear bullets. I'm going to kind of maybe make them a little spice so people get interested. But right now, people are also saying, okay, how are you real as a company? Like, what are you actually going through? What are you changing? What can I learn from actually you? So as we think about kind of humanizing the sales process or the marketing engagement process, all of these specific conversations here, and I consider them conversations, right? Your meetings and cadence, how do you deal with your company? How your company is run, how was it, and how is it going to be in the future? All these specific ones where you can actually use in a conversation. And to be clear, when we're thinking about kind of that next normal, and I always kind of look at some of the data and say, okay, what's the bounce back that we're going to be able to see, right? And this is just a little graphic that came out, and we're talking about bounce back of like, okay, think about from early rebounders, the market followers, and the ones that are kind of be the long-term disruptors, right? You can see there's, when you think of like food and beverage, construction, oil and gas, real estate, pharma, they're going to be early rebounds. They're already kind of coming back, as you know, right now, right? The market followers, when you start seeing, like, as far as finance, when you start seeing things as far as from probably like some manufacturing, you're going to see some delays. Why I point this out and why I just bring this up is that every customer you interact with also is different. So if you have the same message to them, it lands differently. Because for some people that are these early rebounders, they have resources already today to go put towards getting, support and solutions, right? For people that are not, there maybe we call them offensive and defensive mind customers. So we're going to go and do some type of demand gen activity, some type of account-based marketing activities. I always say, are we looking at kind of the offensive minded person or the defensive minded, right? Because there's different message, it's even different offering that we may put out for them. So I do want to make sure when we're just talking about kind of the forecast for budgets and spending, right? You can get an idea here. The big five out there: government, food and beverage, technology, healthcare, and real estate. It does not mean that other industries are not going to spend. It's just looking at saying, okay, what are the percentages people are looking at right now? Telecommunications, engineering, education, insurance are those next ones that are down the line. And once again, I'm not giving you the Fortune 500 big names. I'm trying to give you an idea of, like, okay, when you think about this, what are those industries you should be trying to target with some demand gen that really will, people have budget to actually go and do activities with. Now, also, you have to understand that because of just, there is these verticals that we've kind of called out, right? But some of them are also saying, gosh, this is where my business plans and really what I need to go and do. And the great thing is that people that are saying, and you could see like the second bullet on the left there, right? If you look, it says 33%. That one there, it says plan to improve security, risk, and governance, right? Governance, those are 33% people are saying, look, these are my plans are changing. And even better, right? We'll think up top here. See 36 up there, 36 plan to improve IT operations and system performance. Everyone here can play in both those categories, right? I technically say that everyone here plays in probably all of these, right? Because you have your own company. That's where I get back to the point of when you're having a conversation, we're going to talk about ways you can do demand. You're going to hear all this. Okay, so I understand that maybe the how, but what am I going to infuse? Like what can I bring? All these specific things. How have you done transformation, right? For some people here, I think for almost everyone, you had a period of time your staff was all working remotely. How did you make them work together? The business disaster recovery plan. Okay, so all of a sudden when people worked remotely, I know we always talk about, all the VPNs that we had to buy to get everyone secure. But what did you do? How do you train your people? All these ones are great topics to kind of bring people in to kind of who your company is, not what they provide, but who you are, because then they start kind of building trust, and there's part where they actually want to learn more about what you have. I will tell you, obviously, from just the hardware and software and services, we know growth is actually happening out there. So in all the areas there, for some people, you saw in the kind of the poll, they actually showed like they were growing with pretty large amounts, right? And you see that's just something that's actually happening out there, not just only hardware, not just software, but also the services. So let's jump into another polling question, right? So you've got some kind of the business environment. What percentage, this is the next one you see, it's going to pop up in front of you. It comes up, it says, what percentage of your remote customers, so think of like the customers that you have out there, are choosing to work remote permanently, right? So when we think about this, and I'm going to kind of pop this one up. Let's see here. We'll just say, let's see if I can launch.
Hey, Eric, and I think it launched all three questions at once here.
Okay.
With it, so they actually did go in and answer some of those, and it interesting with it that it looks like about 88% are in those, and you can see those as well. 88% are in that 40% or below of their customers are going to be working remote permanently.
Okay. And
so a lot of people planning on going back here.
Yeah, and it's a good point. Like I think the part that it's interesting when you talk about the feedback, so it's that 10 to 40, is that a lot of partners are saying, people are definitely going back, but where they're going back to, that's the part that's maybe it's not back to the big, huge corporate building, right? Maybe it's some remote areas. And once again, how we're engaging with those remote buyers, I call them, right? There's many different ways you can do that. And we'll talk about how you can do that today. But once again, the clarity is that people that we engaged with before in certain ways. Like I have a lot of friends of mine that's like, hey, they're just very big into kind of coffee meetups. How can I go through? How can I get involved with someone? How can I have that? That may not be the norm moving forward. And we've got to be aware of that. And like I said, 10 to 40%, you get that range of what that impact is. Now let's talk about marketing for a second. Everyone is really big into it. Everyone's got it. I do want to make sure I just kind of put a point of view out there of like, when we think about the classic kind of business to business marketing funnel, how much that's actually changed, and meaning, and really how we are bombarded, right, with just so much electronic content. So whether it's webinars, whether it's emails, whether it's IMs, you have so much stuff that you're actually getting engaged on right now that before, when you would have a website, you'd have people fill out a form, you do emails and all stuff, and then you try and get an appointment. That is somewhat, it's just kind of been turned on its head. And the reason why is that people are not necessarily working that standard 8 to 5, right? They're not at their standard desk. So that standard way you'd engage with them, you say, okay, I can do around this time. It's not the way. In fact, ironically, I was at a webinar yesterday, right? Just kind of, I'm like you, I try and learn as much. And a company called On24 does a really big webinar platform. They actually pointed out, this is a cool thing, just to, I don't even have it on slides, but one takeaway I had yesterday was, they said a lot more people are actually doing webinars on Friday. Like if you're going to go and do an event, I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. And their data showed it, meaning a lot of people, when they're ending the week and they're kind of having their kind of happy hour on Friday, what we call, they'll actually be the time where they'll actually take it in. And to be clear, it's not that it's going to be live. It may be something that's on demand. But I bring you back to this part right now, is that for a customer of yours, you got to make it so that fast response, if they have a question on something or they've got an inquiry, and then also making it very simple to work with your company, right? So I'm not saying everything is going to be just only online, but if you want to engage new customers, you got to figure out, hey, by the way, maybe if I'm doing something like this, that I record it and I have it online and people can actually follow up what's offline. It can't be just only it's got to be live. And I think it's not just the Netflix culture that we live in, but it's actually where we're at right now, where people actually have to sit back and go, okay, I may not work 8 to 5 because I have got kids that are in school from 8 to 1, and 8 to 1, I got to be helping them. I'll work from 2 to 10. So we just got to be more aware of kind of our customers and where they're at. And once again, simplicity of working the organization, fast response is big. And why I mention this is that when we think about just the stages of marketing, and there's all different types of funnels that people deal with, but think of like, you will reach out to a customer, you'll get a customer to act on something, they convert to actually doing some things with your company, right? And then there's the engagement that you have ongoing with them. And I think a lot of times when we're thinking about marketing, we only think of that reach part up front. We have to think of all the different ways that our customers engage us, right? Because some people, they would say, hey, I want a customer for life. I want to make sure that when I get that customer, that it's not they just end, they don't leave me after a while, right? They actually, I'm going to keep them engaged, and that it's not going to go down, right? And then how we engage, if you're engaging customers in a community activity, if you're engaging them only in a social activity, but knowing that how you reach them and how they engage or act is different. And there's lots of different ways. I think everyone here is a pretty big expert on the different options. In social media, there's SEO, there's content marketing. I just want to make sure when we're thinking about this, the customer has a journey they go through. And sometimes we have to sit back and say, okay, what's for the best for the customer at this time? What makes it so they can really engage better with our company and organization? And what the whole thing about engagement, if you haven't seen, this is all around conversation, the conversations we have. And conversations, to be clear, this isn't something where it's just a one-way thing, right? This is something where it's interactive, and that interaction can be digital, it can be kind of over the phone, like over we're doing this, but it's got to be interactive, and you see the key bullets around a really good conversation. It's intimate, it's personalized, right? So if you just send a general message out, or you're doing a general post, or you're not making it specific for the people, it's not going to come across the right way. You can have it empathetic, and that doesn't mean knowing all the feelings, but saying, I understand where you're at. And the value of what you're bringing, which once again, remember all those topics we talked about earlier, right? How are you doing with your meeting cadence? How are you doing with your leading your teams? All that. This is where that really valuable information translates into you're actually a trustworthy person to really follow up with, right? So these are parts of our conversation. This would be our number one goal that we should have for this year. And when we talk about, okay, man, how do we have these conversations. This is just an example of a research that was pulled last year. They're making updates on this right now, but I've heard through the grapevine it's very similar. But think of this as when you're engaging, and I'm going to give you kind of how in a second of these pipeline activities, right? But how you feed that pipeline to engage your customers, it's kind of three big categories, right? It's the business issues they're dealing with, right? So those business issues, and I highlighted one, the number one thing that small, medium business were dealing with last year, they are still dealing with this year, is attracting and retaining new customers. How many people here are dealing with that, right? How many people are like, hey, I want to get new customers and I want to retain them, right? That's I think everyone here is in that process. Obviously, you're seeing we're talking marketing demand gen. Right? IT priorities, right? And there's a lot of things here, but one of them in the middle there, number 4, is collaboration, which we're doing here, right? But how do I make sure my teams are collaborating? I'm telling my customers, I'm collaborating with my suppliers. That's another area. And then IT challenges. I put the one on the bottom there, finding qualified and trained people. Right? Everyone here is dealing with that. So once again, these are things that will help feed that pipeline. We're talking about content or things we need to go do to engage customers. All these specific things here, right, are things that you can actually go and lean on. The last poll we had to was the biggest need your customers have right now. And Jeff, I'll rely on you. I was going to look back at those results, but what came up most from your perspective from the results?
Yeah, so number 1 on that, remote workforce security best practices. And then number 2 was one that you just mentioned, was the collaboration, okay. Remote workforce collaboration best practices.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like, so Jeff, from your guys' perspective, like in what you guys are kind of content you're putting out there, is that pretty similar to what you guys are hearing?
Yeah, it's definitely what I'm hearing every day, especially on the security best practices.
Yeah.
I think there's opportunity there around collaboration best practices. It is something that some MSPs are talking about right now, but not everyone has latched onto that. And really of what I'm hearing from you, and even just seeing this as the second one here, is even if it's not a big money maker for you in that topic, is that it's something that they're worried about, it's that they're interested about, and it leads to, I think, a lot of the different solutions and tools that everyone has as a MSP. Yeah. And so it's an area of being able to tap into. The security is one, it's all in our mind as in the MSP community. Yeah. Here, and so it's what we hear. The collaboration maybe not as much, but I agree that it's definitely one that has a lot of opportunity for 2021.
And it's interesting, Jeff, because like partners, when I'm talking to them and they're talking about the collaboration part, some partners actually have a collaboration as a service package they sell. And it sounds awkward, but like, okay, so if your collaboration tool is not working or having issues, right? They actually provide, like, it's like, I don't know the exact pricing, it's $4.99 a month, but you have a monthly service, and it's basically, hey, we're going to manage that application. We're going to make sure you have the latest and greatest. We're going to make sure there's a monthly newsletter they put out about collaborating else. So it's this part, because ironically, like, everyone's trying to make sure everyone's productive, like in their environment, right? So it's like any information they can give to their teams. And so that one is coming up. I was surprised how much of it come up, but it's one that people are talking a lot. So, okay, so let's jump into what we're talking about. We're here today to talk about top 3 sales pipeline strategies, right, demand. Now, we talk about sales pipeline. I want to make sure it's really, really key. When everyone talks differently about a pipeline, a funnel, how it looks, and I want to just I put this graphic up front. Normally it'd be its own slide, but I just want to make sure up front we're all on the same page. When we think about a sales pipeline, it starts with a targeted set of customers. Right. So depending on how advanced a marketer you are, you would ask the question of how many customers are we targeting, right? How long have they been interested in in our solution set, right? Or are they our new buyer? They don't know anything about this, or have they been doing for a while? We're actually going to do, there's something called the RAD model out there, retention, acquisition, and development. Acquisition would be, these are people that have been using a service from a partner for a long time for IT, but I'm going to actually bring them over. I'm going to actually steal them back. I'm going to acquire them from someone else. How valuable are these specific target customers? So are they, by that, are we just trying to get them one type of managed service product? Are we trying to get them a security product with that? Are we trying to get them a collaboration product? How valuable we think? And then, what do we think the chance of them actually moving through our funnel, right? Are they completely cold leads? Are they warm leads? How are we bringing them through? So, and you can see here, targets, suspects, prospects, customers, repeat, depending on how you deal with customers, or how your sales teams talk and your marketing teams talk. Awareness, interest, and consideration and conversion is usually a pretty big thing people talk about. End goal here, right? When we're talking about sales pipeline, is to get sales. It is not to get someone interested in awareness. It's to get them beyond that. A lot of people, they think of sales pipeline and say, we're gonna do all this activity to get awareness. No, it's actually to get them through the pipeline itself. So as we're giving these things today, you're going to see some go, okay, these hit awareness, interest, consideration. They go through the whole thing. That's what we're supposed to do. We want to get sales with these. So let's start talking through very first one. And some of these are going to be very basic, right? But we've seen these are ones that complexity doesn't always drive sales. More simplicity sometimes does. And this is where, think about having virtual information sessions. And you could see the experience I'm describing. You look at it, you may say, that kind of sounds like a webinar. That sounds like just kind of a meetup. But the idea about this is that when we think of that funnel, that sales funnel, right, and someone gets aware of your specific offering, you have to figure out a way to actually engage them, right? So when you do a virtual information session, and depending on how you do sales, these can be warm leads, they can be cold leads even, but you're reaching out and you're proactively starting a dialogue with them. You're actually acknowledging, like, I saw you were interested in what we have. I want to actually invite you to a session we have. And these can be both formal and informal. The formal ones I would tell you, so think of the security best practices we just talked about, Jeff and I were mentioning, or remote networking best practices. These are more formal ones. These are great for kind of the newer customers because you want to show as far as your acumen that you bring to the table. I will tell you, and you remember, we had that kind of slide a couple of minutes ago, we're kind of like this arc and how the customer kind of engagement may have gone down. The informal ones I show you there, these are ones that you would do with your existing customers. You can do new, but where I've seen it be best with partners is that they have a set of customers that maybe are called dormant customers, right? That maybe they were getting service from us in the past, but they just haven't done as much in the last 12 to 18 months. What this is about is really engaging them beyond just the product, right? So more about like who, or some of those topics talked about at the very beginning, meeting cadence. The big ones that have been done really, really well is that remote learning best practices. I had a partner literally get on with a set of, just said, hey, I'm gonna have this virtual information session about remote learning best practices. And this was, his kids were doing stuff in school and he was saying, okay, what's the best thing? How do I handle all this? And he basically just gave a 15-minute presentation about it. He said, here's just some best practice that I have, had a little bit of a roundtable, people that were there. And he got 5 new leads from it. And it was authentic, to be clear, right? But people were like, hey, I was trying to find some best practice about this and no one's really putting anything out. And it was great to be in the session. Can we just have a fallback? I know we used you guys in the past. We're having some security. Can we just have a conversation on that individually? And that part, those informal sessions, it may not seem like a big thing. It may seem like, okay, that's nice to do, but it actually shows that authenticity about your company, right? I would also say from the security point of view, this is a great one that's come up. Personal computing best practices, meaning there may be a lot of devices, right? A lot of Dell systems are in their house. They've got notebooks, desktops, all this stuff. And they start knowing, like, by the way, when we have corporate information, we just don't download those onto certain things, right? Or how do you secure your home network, right? All those things that are out there from a personal computing definitely applies here, right? Applies in this environment. It's like you need to make sure you understand that in this personal environment, this does impact your overall. And it's just, once again, that part of acknowledging and starting a dialogue. Now, I always do the question of, okay, this seems great. We've tried this and we only get so much interest. I'm going to give you a couple best practices. First, best time to actually have them, right? Best time to actually promote them. Best time to actually going to get attendance. Here's what they are, right? So they're this best time to actually send out emails about your specific kind of virtual meetup or virtual information session. It's going to be, you're going to see that Thursday time frame is really good and Tuesday's really good. When we think about as far as best attendance, Thursday has got the best day overall. I mentioned before, Friday has gone up a little bit, still kind of low, but that's for more of the on-demand side. And that is one thing I will point out is that even though, okay, I can send emails on Thursday, great day to have them is at midweek. I will tell you the best time to have it is around 11 a.m. Pacific. But to be clear, a large amount of engagement happening right now from a virtual perspective is actually happening on demand. So I don't go a lot into like chat bots and other stuff that you can have on your site. I'm saying as far as the engagement that you have, don't be dismayed if all of a sudden you're like, gosh, I only got 10 or 15 clients to this specific virtual information session I had. That's all right. If you actually put that on your site, if you put it on your social media, let people know about that you can sometimes even get more engagement. In fact, right now we're seeing a lot of partners, we're having 3x more engagement on demand than live. Just because, once again, everyone's not working 8 to 5. Everyone's not working a normal schedule, right? I actually have had partners that when they do those informational ones, they were tracking and they said they had a lot of people look at them on the weekend. So, and I think that's people just kind of busting away, just trying to have a little bit of normality when looking through things. So, so that's kind of I give you the kind of when to send for emails, when to have it, and the time. I did also want to make sure that when you think about another way that you can help with that pipeline, and this gets a little more tactical, is around social selling. And I really believe social selling is something that is going to only grow in 2021 and beyond. And this is something where you can have a virtual information session that is great. That's kind of maybe like a call to action you can use. You got to get that kind of in play. The next part is actually, okay, how can I actually go through and really ramp the engagement side from a social perspective? You can see the traditional selling model, the social selling model, it is different, right? I will just tell you that when you think of social selling, it is not just one aspect. Like someone will say, okay, you only do it in LinkedIn, or you only do it in Twitter, or only do it in blogs. It's many, many places that you're going to engage on. So I want to make sure you see that. You want to make sure the engagements you're going to do is going to be across multiple platforms. And even the platforms that are out there, all of them, right? And many researchers are saying it's actually it's working quite well for specifically, in many different business to business conversations. It's not just only a social aspect. So with that, some people ask, okay, where should I focus a lot of my social selling at? The number one that's working for businesses right now is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is still that one. About 50% of all the business social traffic that comes out there is from a LinkedIn perspective. When I talk about LinkedIn, I always let people know you want to make sure you've got it not only a personal LinkedIn, but you have a company LinkedIn page. A lot of people, they think, okay, well, my company LinkedIn page is our CEO's LinkedIn. No, you need to have a separate company one that actually has all this information related to your company overall. You can have information about the employees there, offering, everything like that. But it is a big one I have you focus on. And then another thing I have you think about too is that not only do we have this information set of connecting, not only have the connecting from a social perspective, but one thing that's really been brought to my attention by a lot of different partners that are really getting that 25% more growth, right, is that the type of touch points that you actually are putting in place to engage with customers. So a lot of times people say, okay, well, how am I going to go do that? And I always tell people, I'm like, let's focus on the what and the who first. And that means, what do you want to communicate and who are you going to communicate to? And when we talk about touch points, I know we're talking digital a lot, but it's not just about digital. We know that physical touch points are going to be coming back. And for some people here today, you're like, yep, you know what? I actually am engaging people in someone's coffee conversations, or we're thinking about putting on some limited customer size events. This is happening, right? This transition of digital and physical is already happening. In the past, it was a lot more physical touch points. So you can see all different types, right? And it was through this funnel, right? Awareness, investigation, choosing, retention, all that stuff's there. I have to have you think about, okay, when we think about digital and physical touch points, how are we actually going to go do that? How are we going to make sure that we got both of them covered? Right now, we're probably leaned a lot more to the digital touch points, right? But we got to start thinking about, okay, how do we bring some balance to that? And why I bring this up is that when people think about leads, whether they're people that are engaging from a visitor perspective, or they're a prospect, or they're a full-on customer, right? They're buying. There's different ways that you can try and engage them, right? And so whether it's the experience you put in place, if you have automation you put in place, if you have an influencer strategy for the existing customers, there's many ways you do it, but you have to understand that it can be different from a physical and a virtual touch point perspective. And I always like to show this, right? This is something that people are like, well, conferences, face-to-face events, what's going to be happening. This is one that was done at the end of 2020. So this was just in December, about a month ago, and just talked about people attending virtual events and going through and attending physical events. And a lot of people say, oh, gosh, people are just kind of zoomed out as far as coming to virtual events. I want to make sure you see this, right? the top bar says, I expect my attendance in virtual events to increase over the next 12, 24 months. So what they went to in 2020 and what they're going to go to in 2021, it's going to increase, right? They definitely said, hey, I've attended more virtual events than I've had in the past. The interesting part, see the one on the bottom, it says, in the next 12 to 24 months, I plan to attend in-person events just as often, it says again, just as often as I did before COVID-19. So I know there's other customers out there, right? So this is just general research, but I want you to understand that there are a set of people that are actually looking to re-engage on the physical side. So I want to make sure that we think about and understand it. So that's kind of content-wise. So I know kind of had a lot of things. I do like to have kind of a partner's perspective, and so I'm excited because we have Michael here today from LAN. Michael, thanks for being here today. I appreciate it. I know you have a lot of things going on.
Thanks for guys having me.
Yeah. So tell us about your company. What is your company? How's it work? A little background.
So we are your typical managed service provider. We're based in Fort Lauderdale. If you look at South Florida, it's a good 100-mile radius. So we cover, pre-COVID, we covered a lot of driving distances. We still have clients in Key West. We have some Caribbean clients. We have about 350 managed clients. We have about 2,500 devices. We are 22 employees, been in business 11 years. I actually have my two sons work for me in the company also. So, we really have a lot of SMB customers across all different verticals, but our two main verticals, and I saw them in the middle of one of your graphs that were out there, were legal and not-for-profit.
Okay.
So we feel like, we have to give back. And I do have to say that every time I see you, those were great statistics that you put up there and all these great pieces. And it's good to see that, get some reinforcement in what we've been trying in this crazy world of trying to keep customers and gaining customers.
Yeah. So some of that. So tell me when you think about where you've kind of been and where we are and where we're going, what's your kind of narrative on what you're seeing? Where from your customers, where are you at and where are you going to go, you think?
So I'm part of a lot of different groups and different areas of the region, areas of the country. You hear different things. I say that we're seeing that a majority of our customers are in that hybrid world today. Those first couple of days of pandemic in March were pandemonium. Scrambling. Lucky in our region compared to others is that we did have better business disaster recovery plans just because of hurricanes. So the majority of our customers that had some type of plan, moved to the cloud, figured those things out, had decent results. We are seeing that we had a pretty better year than we anticipated. So on some of the survey numbers there, wasn't the way we wanted to come out, but happy in the end that 2021 is here. Mm-hmm. And as we're starting to see it in some of your survey results, we are calling it work from home 2.0. I think that we used to have it as a luxury. I have I have a couple of grandchildren. My one daughter-in-law is expecting our second one, and her company is trying to figure out that maternity leave. But prior to COVID, even before this, they had a policy where 1 week every month they wanted people to work from home just to be able to go out there. Young internet marketing type company. So when it went from a luxury, now it's kind of a requirement. Just Monday, we had two clients that had to shut down for COVID reasons that were out there. And, thank God that, we really did have good disaster recovery type plans in place. And what we ran on last year early in it, we kind of called them the ghost networks. When people had to abandon and go home, luckily we had some remote agents, we had some ways of taking over the workstations, and we had to go out there and put that in place. But, as the pandemic got bigger and bigger, how much work can you really do on your 10-year-old old laptop that's out there trying to get in place there? So we saw a big demand for, hardware, connectivity, of course, security. We always said that the bad guys never took off. Right. They went back there and started the COVID scams and things along those lines. And really, now we're actually, I think that a lot of our clients have seen their exposure. And that was really the biggest thing. On your marketing pieces and your virtual pieces, I mean, we we went back to basics.
Mm.
We looked at what, a lot of the corporations were doing and converting things into, making hand sanitizer and reproducing things. And we kind of felt crippled. And really we were always community involved, and we were very involved in organizations, chambers, things along those lines. So we started going out there and running, work from home webinars, just like you said. I could have written some of your pieces that were out there. How to manage your remote workforce. We had tips and tricks. We relied heavily on our manufacturers and our vendors for content. We're big Microsoft partners. We are big in, we've been a Dell Premier partner for years that we're out there trying to figure out how we can get equipment quick, having real-time numbers, and trying to get people some work because we felt like our hands were tied. But we ran a lot of events. We really led heavily with security, because we were getting bombarded, and it was very hard to protect, where you said before, people had corporate devices, they were coming in on the VPNs, but those people that didn't have that were trying to do, remote, RDP sessions on a Windows XP machine, or a Windows 7 machine, an unpatched machine, a machine that, might have 2 gig of RAM, trying to connect up to things. So I think it was important. And we really went heavily into the community. We did a lot of, no charge training. We went to a city. We actually did some Microsoft Teams training for Broward County Public Schools, top 10 in the country in school districts. And it wasn't to gain anything. We saw the need. People were thrown into environments that they never were involved in before. And believe it or not, outside of all of this, we do a lot of virtual event planning now. Right before this event, we got someone that contacted us. It sounded like they wanted to run, a virtual birthday party, but we found out it was for a dignitary in the city of Atlanta, and they expect 1,000 people, and they need some help in, not only planning. And again, we are a tech company, but making sure that Zoom and other platforms are secure, providing tech support. And we've been doing this for a ton of not-for-profits, for a lot of organizations. And, being that we're in a vertical, we were able to heavily, concentrate on, our law firm practice. Our law firm practice led us into not-for-profits. We're helping the not-for-profits to get away from, those free mail kind of emails. We had one last week that, they manage multiple not-for-profits and they got hacked. Is that really from a PayPal piece? As I'm on with you, I've gotten 3 calls from American Express on my cell phone, on my piece, and I can't shake them. And I know that they're, fraudulent calls. So I think it's important that, that I always say this. I've been working with law firms for 30 plus years. And I think that, if you're verticalized, now's the time that people really lean on you and trust. I hate using that trusted advisor type piece out there, because we've heard it so many times, but we speak the lingo. We understand, what really works for some of our law firms. And I always kind of say, God forbid you get really sick and, it's a specialty type disease. You're not going to go to the dentist to try to help you cure your cancer. So I think that, it's great to go out there. It does give you the edge. And I think it's good to make sure that, you're out there giving back. And you hit the nail on the head. We planted a ton of seeds that were out there just because we wanted to help the community. And now we're, becoming that trusted advisor.
And so, Mike, I'm going to come back, because we got a couple of questions for you. I do want to take a second though and make sure, a lot of people here, you're probably sitting right now going, okay, and Mike mentioned earlier. So I love the idea about how you connect all these different dots. How do you make sure you're kind of maybe what the business is, what you have, right? I got to maybe grow a little bit. And a lot of times I think partners are like, gosh, well, who can actually help me from a growth perspective? And I want to take a couple minutes to ask Alicia to kind of go. Alicia, could you tell us a little about Dell Expert Network and how it helps partners today?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Eric. And thank you, Michael, for contributing that content. My name is Alicia Bowling. I'm one of the program managers for the Dell Expert Network here at Dell. And I'm so glad that Michael brought up that kind of trusted advisor term, although we have heard it a million times. You guys are the trusted advisors for your customers, but who's the trusted advisor for you guys? And here at the Dell Expert Network, that's what we try to do. So this is a benefits and rewards program to help you after you take those demand generating activities that Eric was talking about, and you generate that demand in the market and those customers start coming to you. Where do you go to maximize your return on those opportunities? And talking to someone who knows what they're talking about in terms of hardware, in terms of services, etc. We want to be that person. So this slide is just to talk about the most asked question that I get about this program. So I like to just kick it off from the top. And that is, what is the difference in the Dell Expert Network and the Dell EMC Legacy Partner Program? So I'm sure everyone on the call is familiar with our Dell EMC Partner Program. It's been around for many years. And the Dell Expert Network, we're kind of the new guys on the scene. So this program is relatively new. We've only been around for a couple of years. But the main difference is going to be in your guys' business model of kind of square peg round hole of where you guys fit. If your main business model is still reselling hardware out there on that market, then the Dell EMC Partner Program is going to be where you belong. And it isn't my job to tell you which program is going to be better for you. I just want to present the options to you guys. And you guys can consult with me. You can take a look at your business model and see which one best fits for how you guys service your clients. But getting into the Dell Expert Network, we are a program that's meant for IT consultants and MSPs in the market who their main business model is just providing those services, and they kind of let their end user customers take care of that financial transaction and that overhead on their own. They most of the time facilitate those purchases, but they're not actually procuring the hardware on the customer's behalf and then reselling it to them. So Eric, if you want to take us to the next slide, we can kind of go through those 5 benefits. I know they're super small down on that slide, but the number one benefit that we have in the program came from a lot of these sessions where we're putting those polls out and we're asking MSPs in the market, what is your main pain point when dealing with vendors? And one of the main pain points that a lot of MSPs told us about was, having that one point of contact with vendors to reach out to help facilitate those purchases. So when you enroll in the program, you're going to get a dedicated account manager that either sits in Nashville, Tennessee, here where I am, or they're not here at my house, but they're somewhere out there, or they'll be in Round Rock, Texas at our headquarters. So that's the one person, the one throat to choke kind of thing, where if you have a problem or you need someone to go to, that's who you're going to email or that's who you're going to call. And they're supported by a team of specialists because we have a lot of products here at Dell. So they have specialists in every different kind of discipline that no matter what the project you're working on or what end user you're supporting, they're going to be able to help. The second kind of benefit in this program is a shortcut in support. So we allow you to self-log support tickets on behalf of your end users. This just saves you that 15 to 20-minute phone call to our pro support team. You can log in and just tell us if you've already kind of diagnosed that problem, save you that phone call, and you can get back to those demand gen activities and activating your customers or getting new customers. One of the main tenets of our program is we want to try to save you time and give you resources to help you grow. So in terms of saving you time, we give you the MemberNet portal as well, which Eric also helps us contribute content to that. So it's a great portal that's one pane of glass to your entire relationship with Dell, whether that be rewards, whether that be orders for your end users. You have, one of those law offices that Michael is reaching out and saying, I know we bought that Optiplex last year on some order. How do I get another one of those? And he's going, okay, well, let me log into that MemberNet portal and see what that order was, see what those specifications are. Let's upgrade you from that 2 gig of RAM so you can really participate in those Zoom meetings. So that's the one pane of glass that we've developed here at Dell, so you can see kind of that whole relationship. And speaking of those rewards, you will earn 3% back in rewards after enrolling in the program for any purchases that your end users make. So that's just a little extra benefit to you guys. We know you're not reselling the hardware if you're in the program, but we still want to give you a piece of the pie for going out in the market and saying to your end users, I know you have a lot of options when procuring hardware, but thank you for recommending Dell, and that they come to us to make those purchases. And then the last kind of benefit that you'll get when enrolling in the program is our benefit with Dell Financial Services. So this allows your end user to consolidate billing, and it also helps you as the MSP get paid faster. So it will actually allow you to roll in your MSP service fees into your end user's Dell Financial Services lease. So if they're leasing equipment from us already, you can send us that statement of work, and as long as they're approved for the amount, obviously, to cover whatever they're purchasing plus your services, they just roll those services into their lease, and Dell pays you directly before the equipment even ships, and then that invoice for your end user is consolidated. So they pay us for your services and for their hardware. So it makes it a little easier for you, makes it a little easier for them. So this program sounds like something that anyone on the call is interested in. Again, going back to, we're trying to take the difficulty in working with us out of this process. My email's down there at the bottom. We're super democratic over here in that you just email us and we get back to you. There's not a huge process that you have to go through of 15 different people to talk to get to the right person. You just send me your email and I'll get you to the right place. And if that's a conversation of, hey, I know you talked about 2 different programs on the webinar, and I'm not really sure which one I belong in. Let me talk to you about my business model, because we also understand that it's not black and white. You're not only reselling hardware, you're not only providing services. It sometimes can vary depending on your end user, depending on the verticals that you support for your company. So send me an email. You can visit our landing page as well if you'd like to learn more. And I hope to get to work with you guys moving into the future. And then hopefully, like Eric was saying, maybe we'll have a few in-person events coming up this year. We can all cross our fingers and hope that happens. But if that is the case, then I will see you guys then. But I'll kick it back over to Eric to help us wrap it up.
Yeah. And then we've got, for everyone to know, right? There's lots of great content out there. So I'll tell you, on that Dell MemberNet program, we got a lot of content available, like a lot for everyone, right? Intel, we've got content from a campaign you can run. We've got stats also and tell you about. There's lots of information. So you want to check that out. And then, I would just make sure that the sales pipeline strategies we talked about, right? These are ones that you can actually go and activate today. Some of the social selling ones you may have in place, the touch point piece, those means, but you really, I would encourage you to at least pick one today that you want to say, I'm going to put some intentionality that over the next 90 days, we're going to lean on that and figure out how we can actually take advantage of that. And it may be that, hey, by the way, I'm going to do one information session a month, and it can be an informal one, it can be a formal one, and I'm going to make sure our company at least leading with that and see what happens. And I think all those ones I've showed you too, like Mike's talking about, these aren't like things I just thought up. These are partners. Literally, I'm looking at everything that's been talked about, and I'm like, okay, what are ones that really rise to the top? And those ones lead. And once again, Alicia talked about being available for you to be able to get you access in a Dell Expert Network and really understand all the pieces. Want to make sure you have that. And as we kind of go, I want to make sure we have time for Q&A. And Rachel from our team, she's kind of helping facilitate some of our questions. And Rachel does work with lots of partners. Rachel, what questions have come up?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to consolidate a few in light of time. For Dell Expert Network, we've had a number of questions that came in, and I think Alicia addressed a lot of them, but some of them are going to be specific to your MSP. And so those are about quoting times, pricing, and reimbursements. And so I just want to stress for those questions, please sign up for Dell Expert Network. It does come with a dedicated account manager, and Alicia's team can work with you guys to answer those specific to your MSP. So I will address a couple questions to Alicia here. And the first one is, what is the best direct way to sign up for Dell Expert Network, and how much does it cost?
Sure. Yeah. Like I said before, if you want to sign up, just send me an email. The program is free. There aren't any minimums that you have to meet to stay in the program. Like I said, we're a new program, so just getting up and running up and running. We have about 9,000 members in our program. So we are pretty established, but we still feel pretty new. And like Rachel said, in terms of discounts and quoting and things like that, I know that saw in the Q&A, Dell.com is my #1 competitor. We don't want that. So I will say that typically we can beat Dell.com pricing depending on the project, but reach out to me. I'll get you set up with an account manager so you can email them, and it's super fast turnaround time. Most of the account managers I know really strive to have like a 4 to 6 business hour turnaround, with a lot of times that being quicker. And you just tell, it's like emailing me, hey, Alicia, like high priority. I have this person that needs this right now. I need it by 1 p.m. You have 3 minutes. I've gotten those emails before. So that it's nice having that dedicated point of contact that you can communicate those deadlines to.
Awesome. That's fantastic. That's so fast. I'm going to throw the next question to you, Michael. We do like to give our audience as much guidance as we can and as much of a blueprint as we can for next steps. We've spoken a lot today about information sessions, conversations, community engagement that doesn't necessarily talk about your specific or most lucrative services, but it talks about a topic that's relevant to your customer base to gain that value in their eyes. How do you decide on those topics?
I kind of look at what's going to give them value, because in reality, any one of us can open up our email at any point in the day and be invited to 20 events next Thursday. I think it's important. So what we've done is that, as an example, one of our big pushes is hands-on labs. We partnered up with both Google and Microsoft. And I was on one this morning where we had 25 people where we did a Microsoft Teams hands-on lab. It wasn't just me droning through slides, showing great little feeds and speeds. Every person got a chance to log into a virtual machine and learn something. And I think we interact. So I think if you find interactiveness and giving value, and in the end, they will come. You build that field, they will show up. I think that what happens is that we get good value out of that. They get good value out of it, and you really feel good about giving back. That's what's been working for us.
Fantastic. That's so helpful. I do want to make one quick note too about something that, Eric, Alicia, and Michael have all talked about today, and that is utilizing partners. There's a lot of information out there for these topics, and many more that'll help your MSP grow, not only in your customers' eyes, but within your own business. Please utilize the Dell Expert Network and the Intel assets as well from a marketing standpoint. You don't need to reinvent the wheel there. There's a lot out there. And I think we're at the top of the hour. That may be about all we have today. Eric, I'd like to ask if there's anything else you'd like to add before we close.
No, I just think it's that part you just said, Zengo. I think it's, Jeff said, hey, it's like the part of giving back and establishing that trusted advisor relationship is a really key thing to do in 2021. And you'll do that by having those authentic conversations and really connect with your customers.
All right, well, excellent. Well, great information here today, Eric, as always here. And I know we'll have this posted up. A few people asked about that because I want to get some of your information and some of those slides and content that you had on those different parts. So we'll get that posted up. Everyone that's on the webinar, you will get a link direct to where all of it is posted up as well after. And I would encourage all of you, like Alicia said, it is free to sign up. That's really as big of a no-brainer as you can have of being able to just go and either email directly, go check out dell.com/expert network. And hey, it's great of starting out the year with some excellent sales content there. And as Hagap just was asking about how do we get a recording, we'll send it to you here either late this afternoon or by first thing tomorrow morning. I'm getting access to that webinar. So, great content to be able to really make 2021 that year that I want to see a lot of those numbers on the polling next year of being that 25% plus growth here. I know that was a tough one in 2020. A lot of you really held on with that. I'm also going to do a big pitch of just saying, hey, I'm looking forward and very, very hopeful of having those in-person events too. The virtual has been great and being able to enable everyone to it, but here's to getting in person as well, and figuring out how to do that throughout the year here with it. So Eric, again, great content here. Alicia, thanks for jumping in there as well. Michael, thanks for participating on this and giving your input from the MSP community. And with that, I think we're going to wrap up our first webinar of 2021. Thanks, everyone.